okay, yeah. So I'm just breaking this down. Yeah, I'm just breaking this down and talking about the things we would need to actually build this Uber clone, right? So I told them we would need a driver, we would need a passenger, right? And we would need a vehicle, and each vehicle could be Excel, it could be Uber X, right? And then we use all this information to make an Uber ride, right? And then we have also some payments happening. So just put payments on the side for now, and we'll see how that plays in later on, right? So Akil, have I got everything here? Do I need anything else?
So let us go through it. So essentially, we have the person, and we have driver class, which will be the subclass of person. So driver is a person, passengers is passenger. So just rename it to passenger. So passenger is a person, right? And then vehicle, we can have multiple types of vehicles, right? So there's X, there's XL, that's correct. And then each vehicle is associated with an Uber ride, and each person is associated with an Uber ride. And there's a payments method. Say what is Uber clone?
No, there was a title, dude. Don't worry about that.
Okay, cool. Okay, all right, awesome. Yeah, this is looking fine. But let's do the relationships between all the classes here.
All right. So wait, do we want to discuss where we would use inheritance and where we would use interfaces? I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let's do that.
All right. So let's see. Like, because we're making this app, right? Let's say we want to sell this app to anybody. Like, we can sell it to Taxify, or we can sell it to to Ola or any other app, right? So we would make a ride. What we would say would make a pair. We would make something called a ride class, right? And our ride class would be like an abstract class, because an abstract class basically is like something that anybody can adapt to, right? So we could make ride an abstract class, right? And from ride we can then create something called Uber ride that will use the abstract class ride, and then we can just create like uh, an Uber ride. So if we have like let's say Taxify coming in, right? Taxify can adapt our abstract class ride, right? And then they can make their own uh, own ride called Taxify ride or something. Does that make sense?
Please
So this
drop a
could be
yes
this
in the chat if what Asif just explained about abstract classes makes sense.
abstract class.
Great. So what we'll do is we will dive into the technical details, like what is an abstract class in Java, and why would we create an abstract class. So I think Asif explained it great. Like the reason we're using the abstract class is so that we can sell the service to like other taxi providers. So that's essentially why we're using the abstract class in this instance. It's not a necessity, again guys, it's not a necessity to just create an abstract class, but this is our approach to solving the problem. There are many ways to skin a cat. Cool, Asif, you can continue.
All right, cool. So now let's talk about the different maybe objects and maybe functions and the instance variables we could actually use in this, right? Okay, so let's start off with a driver, right? Let's start off with the person, right? And a person maybe could have, let's say, okay, we want to make them private variables, right? So a person could have his name, right? We're just going to put name, and a person would have a surname, right? And then the person could have name, surname, maybe phone number, right? And the person has some cash, right? So the person has some cash in his account, right? So we put that in the cash variable, right? Okay, I'm missing anything for person, right?
I think that's about it. Maybe you can aid. I mean, like in a usual case, we could have age, gender. You can have those
Yeah, but
variables.
I think for this clone, I think it's necessary for now.
Okay,
This be
cool.
too much unnecessarily. For driver now, a driver would have a vehicle, right? So because the driver is inheriting person, whatever the person as a driver is going to have as well, right? So why can't I do this? right? So this guy's going to have a vehicle, right? So it's going to have whatever a person has, and then we're going to have his vehicle. Am I right, Akil?
Yeah.
Right? And then is there anything else a driver would have? I think let's put a driver's license, ID.
Sure.
Right. So passenger, what would the passenger have? A passenger.
I don't think we have any additional variables for now, unless anyone has any ideas. I guess, yeah, I think passenger, we can just stick with the name, surname. Yeah. I mean, Yusuf, basically money is the cash variable will inherit from person. Maybe Asif, the number of rides, that could be something the passenger could have. Number of rides on.
I mean, that will make this project quite complex because you have to calculate that then. Driver score.
That's a good suggestion. So the rating, they could be a rating for drivers.
Okay, yes, exactly. Bandile said that passenger could be the pickup address, I guess. No, but that will be changing all the time, right?
The email address, that's a good one, Sarah.
Okay, we're gonna put an email address. Let's say email, right?
I think Mohammed suggested a good one as well, the rating. So the thing is, guys, I think with some of these objects, right? So for example, rating, right? Rating could potentially be its own class, and rating could have its own factors. So, and we could just have the rating object that we could have in driver. But I think for the sake of simplicity, let's just stick with this, right? But I think these are some great ideas we're seeing coming in the chat right now.
Okay, let's put rating there as well, right? And then we'll just hard code it for now. We won't do the calculation for it. Okay. What else do we have? Let's talk about vehicle.
There's also driver rating, Asif. So like this driver rating as well.
Okay.
So now you can see that this variable is actually appearing in both the driver class and the passenger class. So that means we could actually just put it in the super class.
Okay, I think we should do that. Huh? Let's put it up there.
So guys, as you can see, like that's how the inheritance works. We want to just create a central place, and then all the classes that inherit from that class will inherit the attributes as well. So because we saw ratings in both driver and passenger, we're putting it in person as well.
All right, cool. Let's talk about vehicle class, right? What do we need in vehicle? So vehicle would have basically the type, the model, right?
So Asif, just 1 second. So Kamo is saying in terms of cash, wouldn't the way in which the payment is made matter? Yes, definitely it would matter. So there would be like a payment type. And I think payment type would be like in the settings of a passenger. And I think for the sake of simplicity, we can just omit that for now. But that is something that we could have like in a settings class maybe. We would have to have a settings class that will manage all the settings for us. So that would be like a preference, like, okay, preferring to pay by card or preferring to pay by cash. For now, for simplicity, let's just stick with cash.
All right, so we have a vehicle class, right? So vehicle class would have a model, right? Like if it's like a BMW or if it's a Mercedes, right? They have a number plate.
Yeah. Guys, if you have ideas, please pop it in the chat. We're pretty much doing this together. So whatever other attributes you can think of.
Then model, the number plate. What else would a car have? Color, maybe?
Yeah, go for color.
All right.
So okay, I think we should use interface, or should we just make this a super class as well?
I'm thinking, like, what would be the difference between X and X? It's the number of seats, right?
Yeah.
So do we need to make it? Do we need to do any interface for inheritance over here?
I mean, so basically just the difference, right? So interface is just a way of creating an abstraction. It's like a planning thing, right? So how will we plan to create the subclasses, and then actually not subclasses, but the classes that implement that interface will take in those methods, right? So we could use either approach. I think let us just stick with inheritance, but I think we'll go through how they would be able to create an interface as well.
Because what I'm thinking right now is that if we're doing this, how are we going to? Because there's no. Do you think we can have any extra like variables, or maybe we can have a? Because I'm a bit confused of how we would. Because look at here, we have extra variables like license ID, the drive, like the vehicle, and then in passenger we have the email that's different. For XL and X, I don't, because the only difference is number of seats, but number of seats could be a variable that could go in superclass.
That's true. That's a very good point, eh? Yeah, I guess we could be inheriting all those attributes, and there's no unique attributes. So I guess we could make it an interface, man.
Yeah, let's make an interface. All right, let me just write down there.
So guys, is this making sense? Like why we're choosing to go with interface here? Please drop a yes in the chat or no in the chat. Awesome. So basically, there will be no is a relationship between XL vehicle and X and vehicle. It'll just be an implement relationship. So XL will implement the vehicle interface and X will implement the vehicle interface. Awesome.
All right, cool. Now let's talk about Uber Ride then, right? So Uber Ride would have basically a ride would have a starting point, right? A starting point. And then a ride would have an ending point.
So a starting point would be, for example, UCT, and the ending point could be Canal Walk. So like the start location and end location. And what else?
Then, what else? Anybody on the chat that can give us the price? Yeah, the price.
Yeah, that's a good one. So the rate.
Beautiful.
So I think what we could have is like a rate. So per kilometer, how much is it going to cost? I think in South Africa, it's 10 Rand per kilometer. So maybe we could have a rate.
Okay, let's put a rate.
And the price will be calculated using the start and end point.
The time, Monica was saying, the time?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay.
And then there could also be, we need to also know who the driver.
Oh, wait. Sanya is saying the rate would depend on which Uber you choose. Exactly. So that's what we can put here. We can put that here. We can put that here because Sanya is saying the rate would depend on which Uber you would choose. So if we're doing that now, we have the difference.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. So we could use inheritance.
Okay, let's do inheritance. Cool. Actually, again, Akhil, the rate is common in both of them.
But the rate value is different, right? When we implement an interface, normally we would deal with static variables that are final, and that wouldn't be changed, right?
Yeah.
I guess let's just stick with inheritance because the rate will, like, although there's the base for Uber Black and Uber XL would be different to a normal Uber X. So I think let's just use inheritance and let's just have the rate subclass, the rate in the subclass. What do you think?
So you want to make rate a final a static variable in the subclasses. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think we could do that.
You guys, so you guys get what he's saying by making. when he says by making rate a subclass, sorry, by making rate a static variable, you guys get what he's saying by that? Please type yes if you do.
Please type
It's
no
not.
if you don't. Okay.
You don't.
Quite a few no's.
Okay. Let's see what a static variable is first. Static variable. Java. All right. So we want to create a constant, right? This is going to be constant. A constant is a variable whose value cannot change once it's been assigned. Java doesn't have built-in support for constants, but the variable modifiers static and final can be used to effectively create one.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's check out that the blog.
Okay, so static. If he says that days in a week are 7, that's something that will not change. That's why we call it static, right? And then we're making a class here called my class, right? And can be used if it's creating object class. All right, so we can access this from the kill. So we can say my class for days in a week, and then we can access this is the other class, and we can access it from the just like that.
Okay, so are you suggesting that we could just have the static variables in our interface? We could have one for Excel and one for X, because remember the base fee changes for different models.
Mm. Base fees change for different models. That's actually true. Okay, do you just want to hold on vehicle for now and just focus on the rest of the thing, and then when we'll come back to this again. Let me put some thought into it.
Okay, cool.
All right. So yeah, let's go back to Uber, right? Okay. You can see, guys, like we don't know what we're doing. We don't know where to start off. We're just compiling ideas and talking about it, so then we can come up with a structure to build this program. That's what we want you guys to actually learn. And like even though we were stuck on the vehicle and how to do vehicle right now, we left it. It doesn't matter, right? You can come back to it and think about it again, do more research, right? And look, it's been long and we haven't coded for a while now because we still structuring and breaking down the whole system right now. Okay. All right. So the rate, the time, the price.
I think the Uber ride needs to also have access to the driver. So we need to know who the driver. The driver. We also need to know what vehicle we're dealing with.
Yes, the vehicle. Correct.
We also need to know the person. So like the passenger.
Correct. Yes. But Akhil, once we have the driver, won't the vehicle already be there because it's under the driver? The vehicle is registered with the driver, right? So we don't need this.
That's a good point. Yeah, we can just stick with driver because the vehicle is already in the. We can already see that our driver class already has the vehicle. So that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I think, is there anything else?
Let's talk about the methods. So now we've talked about the attributes. I think Bandile says something. I think a static variable can change, but you normally use the keyword for things that are common, meaning those that belong to the class. And then for constants, you can use the final keywords. Yeah, that's true. Static words can change. Only if you use the final keyword, it becomes a constant and it cannot be changed. Cool.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the methods, right? Okay.
So I think the first method, like as soon as let's talk about it ourselves. Like when we open our Uber app, the first thing we do is we set the start, like it recognizes our starting point, and then we set the ending, like the location where we want to get to, and then once it does that, it calculates the price for us. it calculates the cost for us. And then once we accept the ride, we basically, it assigns a driver to us. It assigns a driver to us. And then at the end of the ride, money gets deducted from our account, and then money gets added to the driver's account. So basically what I can see happening is, so I think for simplicity's sake, we can just skip the step where, there's the accepting, like the passenger actually looks at the cost and then accepts the ride. What we can directly do is we can, unless Asif, what do you want to do? Do you think we should also just calculate the price and then give the passenger opportunity to say, yes, go through with the ride via the command line?
What I was thinking was just to what I was thinking was to make it as simple as possible, was to just assign, so once a passenger selects, he says he wants to Uber ride, right? So we create the whole ride and then we just assign the passenger, and then the ride happens. Like, I don't think you want to put a yes or a no right now.
Okay, cool. So I guess the method that the Uber rider needs to have, it needs to have the ability to assign a driver to the ride.
Yeah. So we will say it's a public, let's make public, right? Assign driver to the ride. What other messages do we think you have?
So there has to be a calculate cost, so that we know what's the cost of the ride.
Okay.
Function to calculate the cost for the ride.
Cost.
So Lanwabo says maybe a method to cancel ride or complaints. That's a good idea. Definitely a good idea. But I think it just creates more, like, it's a bit out of scope because we have limited time. Let's restrict the scope to just assigning driver, calculating cost, and then completing payment.
Just move these things.
Yeah. But Lanwabo, that's a good point. They should also be
able to cancel. Guys, after we build this, right? I mean, it would be very great if you can go and update this and add your own stuff to it, right? That would be really cool.
Yeah. Cool. And then there's a calculate cost, and there's also complete. Let's have a complete payment method that will use our payment class to deduct money from.
So you want to put that here?
I mean, that the payments class can have deduct money, right? And add money. Deduct money. Okay. And then maybe it could just take a parameter of whose money it's deducting account from and whose money it's. Add money. Great. And we could just have the Uber ride use the payments class and run these methods. So we can just have like a method in the Uber ride class. Let's call it like a complete
payment.
Yeah, complete payment. That's going to run these two methods. That's a good one.
So I think this will just run after all the ride has been done, right?
Yeah, correct.
So let's just do that.
And I think, is there anything that we're missing here?
Complete the payment, send the driver, real cost.
Hey, what about, remember how we want to calculate the distance? So because we'll use the starting point and the ending point to calculate the distance in kilometers. So let's create a class called calculate distance.
You want to create a class for that?
Sorry, a method.
Calculate distance.
Right, and this could just take in two parameters, the starting point and the end point. I mean, we can figure out the parameters and stuff later.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Cool. So there's the calculate distance and then calculate cost, which will use the distance and will multiply by rate. And then there's assign driver and there's complete payment. So let us talk about assign driver. How will it work? How will we do the assigning of driver?
Assign driver, I think what we can do is, because we don't have a database right now and we haven't learned about databases, what we can do is let's just make an array, right? That can hold different driver objects in that. What do you think?
Yeah.
So no, actually, let's have a CSV file, correct? And that CSV file will have all details of the drivers. We'll import all the drivers from the CSV file into an array.
Okay.
So if you want to add more drivers, right? If you want to add more drivers, we can add the CSV file. Awesome. And that's what you guys have to do in question 5, right? You have to import stuff from a CSV file. So we will do it today together.
Okay, great. So basically our CSV file is basically going to serve like our database.
CSV file. Yeah.
So we'll have a CSV file, which will basically be it'll hold all our records, and we just have to read from that CSV file. So do you want to have like a class called data? Let's create a class called database, and maybe that database class is going to do the CSV file reading.
Database class. So you want to make this a static class? I mean, sorry, you want to have a class with static function in it, because all you have to do is just import the CSV file.
I guess so. Yeah, that sounds good. We can make it a static. So guys, just a pointer. The cool thing about creating static variables is that you don't have to initialize the class. You don't have to initialize the object to actually access methods, right? That's the cool thing about static methods. It just sort of saves time.
So we're going to make this a static function, right? And the good thing about static function is that I don't have to create a class. All I have to say is database dot populate drivers, right? I just have to call the function simply without creating a class, right? All right. So that's our database. What else do we have?
I think.
Does this make sense? Do we know why we want to have database, right?
Yeah.
This is where we're going to import our CSV drivers into that database.
Please drop a message in the chat if it does make sense. If it doesn't, please say no. Awesome.
All right. So far so good. Anything else, Akhil?
I think let us talk about our driver class and the flow of the application. So I think let's also just explain the concept of a driver class. And hopefully this will bring the app together. So basically just create a new class called driver class.
Right.
So guys, the driver class is basically...
I think it's this one's called driver class, called test Uber ride.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So test Uber ride. This is basically going to test our entire application and all the functionality of it. That's where we'll have our main method that will essentially, take in. So using system.in, we're going to take in the input of the start point, of the ending point, and what else are we doing here? We're taking this input of the start point, end point. Do you want to just take note of that?
Yeah, that's right. Take input of start point. And end point.
Yeah, like that's good. That's a good. So yeah, basically, we need to specify what vehicle we want to go with, like X or XL. What else do we have? I think that's it, huh? And then based on that.
So I think right now what we will do is we will create a passenger class, right? And we'll assume that the person is already logged in. So you have to log into Uber, right? So what we will do is we will just create a new passenger object, and we'll use that object to make the Uber ride, all right? To call the Uber ride. So that's what's going to be being passed inside passenger over here, right? And then the remaining input will take it from the user.
Awesome. Then yeah, I guess we have to just run the Uber ride based on the start point and end point. We need to create the Uber ride.
Let's create an Uber ride, right? So here we'll call the constructor of this class, right? And then once we create the Uber ride, we need to call these functions: calculate the distance, assign the driver, calculate the cost, complete the payment from this class.
Great.
All right. Does that make sense, guys? Because we're gonna dive into coding now. We have like some form of structure, right? We can allow us to make our first iteration of our code.
Does this make sense, guys? Or should we just give a summary of what we've done so far? Great. Okay, so let's bring things together. So basically, what we're essentially going to be I think Uber Ride is sort of like the main class that I see over here. This is like the meat of the application. And with this class, we just want to take the starting point of a user. So similar to the app, we want to take the starting point. So let's say, for example, I want to go from UCT to Canal Walk. So the ending point will be Canal Walk. And then there'll be a rate associated with it. And the rate will basically come from the vehicle class because each vehicle will have a different kind of rate. Oh, Asif, we actually needed to finalize this here before we continue with the summary. With the vehicle class, remember we basically said that we wanted to either make it an interface or we could make it a superclass, and XL and X could inherit from the superclass. Or we could just make it an interface and then XL and X implements the interface.
And let's just make it an interface. Because then we can have like a get rate or get, get some, I mean, abstract function interfaces, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can just make our get rate because the get rates return different values. So I think let's just make it an interface.
Okay, great. Okay, awesome. So basically, guys, we'll have our starting point and end point, and then we'll be able to access the rate in our Uber Ride class using the vehicle, using the vehicle over here. We'll be able to access the rate, and once we have the rate, we'll be able to calculate the price, right? So with our starting point and end point, we will calculate the distance. So let's say from UCT to Canal Walk, it's like 20 kilometers, right? So we'll do 20 kilometers, we'll have the distance multiplied by the rate that we'll get from our interface over here. That will allow us to calculate the cost, okay? So once we calculate the cost, we will basically have the price for the ride.
I'm gonna put that in the group. Yeah. Cool.
Great. So once we have calculated the cost, we know the cost of the ride. And I think time, let us put a pause on time. I don't think we should use time right now, but let's just keep it there for now. And we have to assign a driver, right? So how we'll assign the driver is basically using our database. Where did our database go?
There it is.
Oh, just drag it up next to the class. Next to the Uber Ride class. Great. So we'll basically assign a driver using our database class over here, which will essentially populate an array of drivers. And then we could create a random index generator that will just generate an integer value between a range. And then we'll just access like one of a driver randomly. Like for the purposes of this exercise, we can do that. Obviously, it's a lot more complicated in Uber. I'm sure there's like location-based assignment that happens. And once we've done that, we'll assign the driver using this class, and we'll be able to complete the payment. How we'll complete the payment is we're going to use our payments class over here. And we'll have the price, right? And using the price, we'll deduct money from the passenger that's been assigned to that ride, and we'll deduct cash from append cash to the driver who's also in our class over here. So basically the core of this application is this Uber Ride class that is essentially using all these different other classes that we've created. And we are going to create it as an abstract class first, so that we can explain the concept of abstract class and also just show you guys that, if you create the abstract class, you can create multiple kinds of rides. So you can have like an Uber ride, you can have a different kind of ride. You can just implement the abstract class. And I have a question. So Asif, is that it? Did I miss any points there?
You've got everything covered.
Great. So what Bandile is saying that, are we going to implement the storage of a list of registered passengers as well, the app users, or just the list of drivers only? So I think Bandile, for simplicity's sake, we'll just use the drivers only. I mean, in a best case, like I encourage you guys to use what we do today and expand the app if possible. Of course, you can add this to your GitHub repository as well. It'll look fantastic. Creating an Uber clone using object-oriented programming. Like, I don't know what company is not gonna wanna hire you after seeing things like that. So for the sake of this exercise, we'll just create a passenger in this test Uber Ride class. And that passenger, we'll just hard code that passenger being able to set the start point and end point. But in the best case, you could also have like a sign up process where you sign up the user and then you add to a CSV file. But that's just going to take a lot of time. Like we'll just explain how to use a CSV file, and hopefully you guys can expand the app from there.
All right, cool. So you guys can still see we have not started coding, right? Just keep a note of that, like how much time we spend on discussing how the programming is going to look, how the structure is going to look. That's very important, right? Before you dive into code.
Great. So I think let us jump into the programming now. So let's actually start creating our classes and see how we're going to do this application. So
okay, most of your screen now.
Yeah.
So you can now see the screen.
Great. You have access to my Visual Studio Code, right?
Yeah, I do have access to Visual Studio Code. So yeah, I do have access.
Awesome. So I'm just going to come over here. This is the Visual Studio Code. I'm going to create a terminal and I'm going to make it read and write so that you can also write to the terminal. Guys, can you guys see the screen? Please drop a yes in the chat if you can. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Let's do this, guys. I'm super excited to actually do this, create an Uber clone. I think I'll also add it to my GitHub repository. Asif, we should definitely add it to our GitHub repository. It's going to be awesome, guys. So I think for starter's sake, let us just set up our file system, right? So we normally just have a source directory. Inside the source directory, we're going to have all our .java files. And then inside our bin directory, we're going to have our bin file, our .class files. So we'll want to compile all our .java files into our .bin file, all right? So let us create our makefile. So the cool thing about using a makefile is you create it once and get it working once, and hopefully you don't have to do it again and again. Sorry, let me just find my makefile real quick. Great, so I've added my makefile to the project, and basically this is what our makefile looks like. And we can now actually compile our classes that we'll create. So let us start off we can actually start off by creating the classes, Asif. Is there a way I can access the image, bro? Did you create the image?
I'll put it on the group. I think that's cool.
Awesome. Let me access it. So is it on WhatsApp?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to download it.
Can we please have more info on makefiles and exactly what they consist of and how we should structure our own? All right, look, Sanya, so you will see how Akhil is going to make his makefile, right? So makefile basically is used by you guys to actually compile, because we're going to have a lot of classes, right? Look, you have a payments class, we have a person class, driver class, a vehicle class, test, Uber ride class, and we're going to have Excel class, X class. There's too many classes we have over here. And it's going to be very hectic for us to compile Java C each one. So Java C driver, Java C passenger, Java C person. It's going to take a long time. So we need to automate that, and by using one single word called make. So if you just say make, everything should compile automatically at once, right? That's why we use a make file. And Akhil, we will make our make file right now over here. You guys can just copy paste literally what he's been doing in that file, because all make files is the same.
So guys, just a little more on the make file. So all the IDE, like if you're going to use IntelliJ IDE or whatever IDE like Eclipse or whatever for doing Java, they already have a makefile. So when you run a class, it'll do the makefile stuff for you. But we are using this method particularly so that you guys understand what's happening under the hood. So that, you know, if you go and work at any company specifically, and you know they are using a manual makefile, because some companies still do that, you'll know exactly how to maneuver it and how you can play around with the makefile. So I think don't worry too much about like, you know, what goes on in the makefile. Like, we'll go through it at a high level, because till today, frankly speaking, I find a makefile quite confusing. But once you have it working, you can add new classes to it, and you're able to use the makefile. It does the job of an IDE basically. So we will touch over it, Sanya. Don't worry about it. We'll definitely touch over it, and once it's done, we'll push this code to GitHub so that you can actually pull from it. Let me actually initialize this as a GitHub repository. Great. So I've initialized it as a GitHub repository, and we'll push it towards the end, right? But I think now we can get started, Asif. We'll definitely touch on the makefile though.
Yeah, so I think let's start off with making the driver let's make the person class first. What do you think?
So let's start off by going over inheritance. Like, you know, what is inheritance? And like, let's actually do the inheritance. So yeah, let's go for it. Let's start with the person class. What do you say? Should I create it?
Right. Yeah, you can source.
Are you here? Are you here with me on my Visual Studio?
Yeah, I am.
Great, I see you. Awesome. Now I'm going to create a person.java. And Asif, let's go, man. Let's actually create this.
Cool, I'm very excited, dude. Very excited.
So should we start? Should we just create it as a public class person? And we can start adding the different components to it. So first we need to have a constructor, right?
Okay, yeah.
Instance variables, of course. So guys, every class that you create will have instance variables. These are basically the attributes. And then it'll have a constructor, and it will have methods. That's basically, and the methods is like the behavior of a class, right? So that's basically the structure of any class that you'll create, right? So let's start by creating the instance variable. So Asif, you can create the instance variables. I'll create the constructor. What do you say?
Right, cool.
The instance variable. Can you can just refer to your WhatsApp on your phone to access the variables so we can create it fast.
So I'm going to make the variables private, right? And hope you guys are coding along with this.
I didn't get that.
So guys, as you can see,
we have our variables here.
Practice. Asif, please lowercase, lowercase variables.
All right, cool, no problem. Private. So we have our name, surname, then we have a phone number. Phone number can be string as well.
Guys, we cannot actually see the chat right now. I mean, I cannot see it. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask.
So we're gonna make our cache variable double because you know you can have 24.42 rands in your account.
So I will also explain what exactly is happening in the constructor. This will make more sense. Because I'm sure you guys have wondered, like, why are we doing this dot this and then we're assigning it to name? Like, why are we doing this? We'll definitely cover that. Asif, I think we can skip rating for now. Just comment. Just comment it out.
Hello.
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 I can't see anything on my side. Anything that you're doing, it's not even typing on my screen. I don't know if it's me or what.
That's strange. Is anyone else having the same problem? Please drop a yes in the chat if you're having this problem. Drop a no. Ooh. Maybe try rejoining the call. Was that Dudu? Who was that?
Yeah, it was Dudu.
Yeah, Dudu, maybe just try rejoining the call.
Okay.
Awesome. Cool, guys. We can continue. Great. So as you can see, we've created our instance variables, and we've used our planning over here to create our instance variables. We've just skipped rating for now for the case of simplicity. And we've created this constructor. So, I mean, you guys are probably wondering, like, what is this constructor thing that we create and why is it so different from a method, right? What you need to know is, like, a constructor is basically the way we can instantiate a class. So when we create a new object, like, you know how we do person is equal to new person, and then we would pass in these parameters. This is the sort of, like, I don't want to call it a method, but this is what gets run when we initialize an object.
It is a method, but a special kind of method, because this is what creates your object.
Yeah, and as you can see, what is happening here, like this, when we do this.name is equal to name, this.surname is equal to surname, we're doing something called binding. We're binding the local instance variables of this person class to the values that will be passed in through the constructor. So for example, if I create a new person, right? If I do person, so I'm just going to comment that out, but if I do person P is equal to new person, and then I say Akhil, Bodu, and then my phone number, and then the amount of cash that I have, right? This is how I would create my person object, right? And now these values, Akhil, Bodu, the number, the cash, these objects will be specific to this person object that we create here, right? And now that is why we're doing this binding over here. So now anytime we do any manipulation on these characters over here, right, on these variables over here, we're going to use these values that we've passed in through our constructor. So now that's how object-oriented programming works. That's the power of it. You can create multiple kinds of objects. You can create Asif now, you know, and you can just change the name, the parameters that you've passed in, and you can use the same thing. You can use the same object over here. So this basically serves as our blueprint, and we're just passing in values of our blueprint through the constructor. So I hope that makes sense, right? Asif, is there anything you want to add to that? Did I miss anything on that?
All I want to add is your constructor is always the same like it's the same name as your class file. So you see person. Yeah. So if you name your class file as person, your constructor has to be person as well. You cannot name it something else.
Definitely. Great.
All right, cool. So let's make our setters and getters now, all right? Because Akhil, do any setters and getters for person, or do you want to just create those in our files for what is it?
So I think we do need getters and setters, Asif. That goes on to the next concept, right? So we have talked about inheritance. The other concept is encapsulation, right? We do need getters and setters because we are creating private variables here. So now if we want to change these variables, we cannot change it. Like we can't do, over here in this example, we can't do Akhil dot name. And then you cannot set the name to Akhil2. You cannot do that. It's not going to allow it because it's basically a private instance, right? If we want to do that, we need to create getters and setters. And that's what creates that encapsulation. And that's the power of encapsulation.
Yeah, so basically once, just a definition of what encapsulation is. Encapsulation is when you are actually protecting your private variables, your instance variables, you're protecting them from other classes to be using them just like that. Because like, let's say now you are in a bank, you have a bank, and now you're storing the amount a person has, right, in his bank account. If that variable is a public variable, any class can change it. So now a new developer can come into the, maybe some hacker can actually access all of the variables, right? And other classes that are using it can access it. So we don't want to do that. We want to use setters and getters to be able to do that. All right.
Great. So I do have some technical definitions here to explain encapsulation. So encapsulation is a mechanism of wrapping the data, right, variables and code acting on the data using the methods together as a single unit. Provides you control over accessibility of data members of a class. So getters read only, setters write only. are the ways to encapsulate the members. Encapsulation allows you to control what members of a class are changeable by a client, e.g. account balance. So guys, this is how banks are actually built, like using infrastructure like this, because all those variables that banks will store will be private variables that cannot be changed, but can be changed by specific admin people. And they'll not have access to the actual variable directly. They can only access it through a function. So that's why they call Java a strongly typed language, because it allows for high security. So Asif, let's go ahead and create the getters and setters.
All right, cool. So I can create the getters, you can create the setters. Cool.
Okay, sounds good. So a setter would be, I'll make them all public, right? Public void set name. And we want to set the name to the value that would be passed in, right? So we will get a value that's passed in, and then we'll do this dot name. We'll assign the name of this class to the name of the value that would be passed in. So that would be our setter for set name. And let us do set surname. Okay, Princess is trying to get in. Great. And we would pass in surname if we ever want to set the surname, and then we'll do this dot surname is equal to the surname that would be passed in, right? And we will create another setter. What would be the next one? Let's say phone number. And it's also a string, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And we'll assign this dot phone number to the phone number that would be passed in. And finally, we can set the value of the cache. And we'll be dealing with the double over here. And we'll assign the cache of this class to the cache that will be passed in. So
right. So, since Akhil's done explaining setters, I'm going to explain the getters, right? Akhil, can we see the getters on the screen?
Yeah, I've scrolled down.
All right, so we've got our getters for getting our name, our surname, and our phone number and our cache. You can see they're all public functions, right? So you can make them private. It's up to you, right? As long as our instance variables are private, that's cool. Yeah. So then we have. So what I'm doing is I'm saying return this dot name, return this dot surname, return this dot phone number, return this dot cache. These are basically all our instance variables we are returning to our class is going to return if you call these functions, right? So yeah, I mean that's our person class.
So that's our person class, guys. And I think now before we continue, let us actually use our makefile to see if there's any errors in this class, right? So now we can move to our makefile. And in our makefile, we will basically add the person class, right? I'm just going to remove Java class. So we have to just specify what classes we're dealing with over here. And finally, we could also just add test classes, although we're not doing testing right now, but I'll just add it here because it's just good practice. And finally, we need to do set the target dependencies over here. So person class, person Java, and then it's going to run the compile. It's going to compile it, and this should work. This should make our makefile work, right? Now I will basically create 2 terminals over here, and I will run the make command over here. And looks like we got an error. And the error is coming from line number 58 of our person.java file. Line number 58. And that's because, Asif, you forgot to put semicolons. Java doesn't allow any games.
Akhil, I think Sarah and Robin are actually struggling to code along, right? I think the laptop is lagging.
Okay. I think what we can do is, guys, just try to follow along with what we're doing. Okay, or unless, should we just constantly be pushing to GitHub so you can pull from your side? I think that's a good idea, right?
Yeah, I think they're okay with that. It's the Robins. Just I think let's push to GitHub all the time.
All
And
right,
then,
let's
like,
do that. So I'm just going to make clean because I don't want to push my, okay, I'll also push my class files. So let me do git status. I am here. Git add. So I'm just going to add it for staging. And then I'm just going to say commit created person.java. Now I will just go to my Chrome real quick. And I'll open GitHub. I'll create a new repository. Uber clone. Okay, I'm gonna create the Uber clone now. I'm gonna make it a public repository. And I'm just gonna link my local repository with my remote repository over here. And I'm just gonna push. Great, so I have pushed it. Let me just refresh this. Awesome, so the code is up, guys. I'm just gonna share this on WhatsApp real quick.
I'll put it on the main group, okay?
Okay, so that it's right there, guys. So you guys can constantly just keep pulling. I think after we create every class, we'll just push the code so you can pull from your side. And in case you miss anything, you can just follow along from where you left off. All right? Maybe that helps. Awesome. So Asif, we have created our person class, right?
Yeah.
And now we can create our driver class and our passenger class. Okay. So
yeah,
we start with driver.
let's start with driver. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you making the class?
Yeah, I'm just going to create driver.java and public class driver. And I'm going to, basically we need to use the same structure. So Asif, we need to create a constructor, right?
Yeah.
So again, let's just create the constructor while I just set up the structure.
Oh, cool. So we're gonna say.
I think the only
Someone. Can you please? Someone's on distributor. Hello?
Yeah, okay, Asif, you can continue.
All right, so driver, so here we need super, right? I remember that. And then it's class driver extends person.
Yeah,
right.
That's where the inheritance is happening.
All right, Akhil, I need the instance variables.
Yeah, so I think the instance variables will basically be coming from super, right? So do we have to also instantiate the instance variables of the person class here?
No, we just leave it because it's going to take it automatically. That's how inheritance works, right? It's going to automatically get from the upper class, from the super class.
Okay. Cool. So there's actually vehicle, right? So we would have to create the vehicle object first. But we will be creating a vehicle. We wanted to create a vehicle interface, eh?
Oh, that's a problem, huh?
Vehicle interface, and then maybe license ID can still be a string. I'll just make that private. I'm just gonna make it a protected. Just leave it. I'm not gonna make it private. Encapsulation is something that you guys should do throughout. But because we have limited time, we're just gonna keep it like this. So how do we deal with the vehicle? Because that is supposed to be, we made that an interface. Asif, we would have to use polymorphism. So we would have to have vehicle, right? And we could create a vehicle object. How do we do this? Let's see.
If you're trying to think about it.
So basically, guys, what we're thinking about right now is in our planning, we said that the driver class, right, which inherits from person, needs to have a vehicle object in it, right? Now the vehicle could be XL or X depending on the driver. And we are a little confused now because we decided to say that our vehicle will be an interface, and any object that we create will implement that interface. Whether it's XL or X, it'll implement that interface. So now we're just thinking about how can we instantiate the vehicle object here.
Okay, let's hold on and see what's happening. I think people are struggling on the chat, Akhil. When you sing a lag, Leander, when you sing your lag is strong, what's wrong? The code is coming very late. Is that the problem? Hello, Leander, you said your lag is strong on your side. Is it the code? The code is not showing up. Is it the code is just showing up late? What's wrong? Anyone who's lagging, could you please explain to us what's happening with the lag? For me, the code is not showing up. Is it a blank screen? Can you guys see the screen?
Yes, I can see the screen, but the only thing that I see on the driver Java, it's only the public class. Going down out, there's nothing. It's just nothing is happening.
Akhil, do you want to try going YouTube live? Zoom is not working out.
I mean, we can, but how do we be able to share screen and stuff? We've never done that before. Should I try?
Let's check it out. But I think people are struggling right now, and that's a bit messed up because they can't follow along with us.
So I'm just gonna go live now. Live streaming isn't available at the moment. Okay, so Asif, live streaming is not an option. I mean, how many people are struggling? Like, can I get a sense of if you're struggling to see the screen and see what's happening and follow along, please type yes. If you're not struggling, please type no in the chat. Dude is struggling, Robin struggling. Okay. Can you guys hear us though? Like, can you hear us clearly? Like for the people who are struggling?
Okay, how about we give them the VS Code, the VS Code live thing, but we ask them not to touch it. They can just watch us.
Yeah,
code.
I can add them. I can make them read only people, so they can read only. I think that's a good idea. So guys, what I'll do is I'm gonna
let's give
add guys-
them the live. They have to install this extension then.
Oh yeah, they have to install the extension. Yeah, that might take some.
Yeah.
Time. But anyways,
It won't take. I think it'll take like another 5-10 minutes depending on their speed.
okay, I'm just gonna invite. The thing is, I want to make it read only. How do I do that? Stick.
I think just it's fine. Just make it the way it is, and then we'll ask them not to dabble with the code too.
Okay, I'm just gonna drop it on the chat. Yeah.
Yes, so guys, what we're trying to do is we're trying to invite you to our VS Code live sharing. So that's how me and Akil are coding, right? So what you guys can do is there is actually something called a live share. So if you go on the extensions for VS Code, so basically this is 4 boxes here. That's your extensions panel, right? You have to download something called live share and install it in your VS Code, and then you can open that link, and it'll take you to directly to our live share for VS Code. For the guys for whom the work is lagging.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
So,
can you continue?
Do you just want to wait for them to download VS Code? I mean, sorry, the live share extension.
Yeah, I mean, dude, they can catch up. Because we have limited time. Remember?
Let's give it 5 minutes. Let's give it like 5 minutes. Just teach them how to get the live share extension.
Yeah, guys,
Yeah.
to get the live share extension, you need to go to the extensions tab here, and then you can just type live share, right? And then it's actually it's built by Microsoft, and then you can just install it. Once you install it, just restart your Visual Studio Code, right? And the link should work. You should be able to join the live share.
You'll have to log in through GitHub.
Yeah, also you'll have to log in through GitHub, and you all should be having a GitHub repository by now. GitHub, or actually you can use your Microsoft account as well. I mean, if you want.
Yeah.
So Asif, like, I mean, while we're waiting, do you want to just talk about this instance variable for vehicle? Lonwabu is here. I'm gonna accept.
I think
Asif, dude, I think here's what I'm thinking, right? For vehicle, what we can do, right?
yeah.
I think we would have to implement. So what we could do is we could make this we could make this an interface, right? But we still need to have a superclass called vehicle. Like there could be a vehicle interface, but we need to have a superclass called vehicle. And here we'll instantiate the vehicle like this, right? And then in the constructor, maybe we could take in a string, or maybe we could take in the type, right? And within our driver over here, we could do, vehicle is equal to new XL, or new X, depending on what is passed in through the constructor. So that way we're doing polymorphism here, because we can have a type vehicle and we can instantiate XL or X. It has to be like this.
So so basically we're using inheritance and polymorphism and not interfaces.
I mean, we should do interface as well. We could create an interface. Yo, what's up, Lonwabo? Lonwabo's here. Awesome. So Lonwabo, can you try typing something? Let's see what happens. Oh man, okay. Please don't type anything anymore, eh? Okay, so people are pulling through. Awesome. So yeah, guys, I think Asif, what do you think about that? I think what we could do is first we'll have an interface called vehicle interface, right? Right, and then we could just have a vehicle class, and XL and X will inherit from vehicle. So we could just do interface just to explain the concept of it.
All right, yeah, we can do that. Let's do that then.
Right.
So I think let's create a vehicle class first then, because we'll need that for this.
Yeah, I know, but just I can create the vehicle class. Just keep creating the constructor in the meantime. What I'll do is I'll split my code editor so people can still see what's happening both sides. So just create the constructor, Asif, in the meantime. I'm going to create the vehicle. Oh, flip, Asif, I got an idea. We can create a vehicle interface, right? And then we'll have a car class. The car is going to implement the vehicle interface, and the car can be XL or X. So like if ever Uber wants to expand to do like trucks, the truck will implement the vehicle interface.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
So this will actually be car object. So to create interface, if I'm not mistaken, we have to just do interface vehicle. And over here, we would just have the different methods, right? So I think one method could be public void. Oh, do I have to specify as abstract? I just need to clarify real quick. Are people able to keep up with what's happening?
I'm just trying to give them instructions on how to download live share on the group.
What else do we have? We have get number plate, get color. Finally, get model. Yeah, on Tefet say like if you can code along, please go ahead, guys. Like Whoever can code along, please follow along. And if you have any questions, you can pop them along. Like the session is recorded, so like if anyone misses anything, you can always just recheck. All right. But I think when I'm here, I just want to explain what an interface is. So this is pretty much our vehicle interface. And guys, what I'll do is I just want to explain to you guys what a interface is, right? So basically an interface by definition is a collection of abstract methods, right? Only the signatures. So like we're not putting any implementation, we're only putting the titles, right? And static final variables, not instance variables. So normally like like interfaces only hold like static final variables. So variables that cannot be changed and can easily be accessed, right? But right now, for the purposes of creating our Uber clone, I don't think we need to have any static final variables. We just need to have these methods where, you know, we can get the number plate, we can get the color, we can get the model of the vehicle. And I think that should suffice for the interface. So as you can see with this interface now, if we create our car object, so I'm just going to create the car object, car.java. Right? I can actually make car implement. It implements our vehicle interface. And that's our car object. So now inside our vehicle interface, we need to make sure that we're just overriding these methods. And our job is done here. So I think rather than making them void, let's just make them string methods because they have to return a string type. And if I go to car.java, I have to just override these methods. So of course you need to remember the structure, instance variables, constructor, and methods. And because we're implementing the vehicle interface, we have to override these methods, right? So basically, we would have to override these methods because we're using the vehicle interface here. And I can just quickly, like while Asif is just sorting out the driver class, I'll just instantiate the different variables that we need here. So we have number plate. Awesome, welcome Robin. And we have color.
Actually, has Robin joined our live share?
Yeah. And then we have
Lit.
And I'm just going to instantiate the constructor here. The constructor is going to have string number plate. So to create a car object, we need to ensure that we have these attributes, and then this dot number plate is equal to number plate. This dot color is equal to color. So I have something coming in the chat. Okay. Asif, are you done creating the driver class before?
I'm almost done. I'm just going to get this.
Okay, cool. So just give a second. Yusuf, just wait for a second. So like once Asif is done creating the driver class, I'll just remove the split screen.
What's wrong?
Nothing. He wanted to have word wrap, but I don't think VS Code does that. Yo, guys, please don't add stuff. Don't change the code.
Yeah, because something has changed in my stuff.
Awesome. So as you guys can see, it's like it's really not that deep to implement like an interface, to use all these different concepts. Like we can just get away without using interfaces and without using all these fancy concepts. But it's important to know these things as a programmer. Asif, how are you doing there? All okay?
Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm good.
So I think I'm not going to explain my stuff right now. Maybe just explain what's happening in the vehicle class. Oh, sorry, not vehicle.
Right. So
Not vehicle. What is it again? Person. Driver.
driver class.
Sorry. Yeah.
All right. So can everyone see? Okay, can everyone see what I've done in driver class? Like my screen showing on Zoom.
Yeah, your screen's showing right now.
All right. So on the driver class, you can see that I've extended from person, right? So I'm using inheritance over here, right? And then I've created an instance variable called car and license ID, and basically we have our constructor there, and the car is of type car, right? And car is basically going to come from a vehicle interface. Actually, I've written the car.java file.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then what we have a driver constructor that is in the car. The license ID, string name, I mean there's this name, the surname, phone number, and cache, right? And these are basically, we need the remaining stuff like name, surname, because these are instance variables that are in the driver class, right? And the driver class basically requires you to put all these, like when you're inheriting, you have to, like, the constructor must take in the information the driver class was supposed to take in as well, right? And then we use super to actually we pass in through the variables that we've taken from our driver class. So we use super to actually get those variables, and we pass them through in the super constructor, right? It's called super constructor, and that's how you calling the constructor of the person class, right? And then we have and then because we have car and license ID are two new things, right? So we have to now instantiate using this dot car is equal to car, and this one's license ID is equal to license ID, right? And then we have our setters and getters, same stuff, we're setting our car over here, and then we're setting our license ID over here, and we're setting our car, and we're getting our car and getting our license ID. Pretty simple, straightforward. I don't think it's that deep.
Awesome. So this is basically using inheritance, guys, and I think just some fancy jargon over here. Basically, inheritance is the process where one class acquires the properties, methods, and fields of another class, right? And there's a concept called overriding. I don't think we're doing.
I think Lonwabo has a question for car. What create a new instance? So yes, Lonwabo, the new instance for car will be created in
Okay.
when you're creating the object.
So basically, Lonwabo, like when we're instantiating the driver class, right? We would have to make sure that we do something like this. First, we'll create our car object, and we'll say car C is equal to new car, right? And then maybe we can specify XL or whatever, right? And then we need to have our driver class. So we'll say driver kill is equal to new driver. And then that's when we'll pass in the object of car within it. So what Asif is saying is that we'll pass the instantiated object already. So we don't have to instantiate the driver object, the car object inside the driver class. I mean, you could also implement it. You could also instantiate it over here. There's nothing wrong in that either. But I think like we can just go with the other way. It's really your choice, guys. Like there's so much flexibility when you're creating a solution. So Asif, it's been a while since we have compiled our code, and that's a very risky thing. You need to constantly be compiling your code, otherwise yeah, Lonwabo, you can definitely have it in the constructor. That's not a problem. So what I'll do is I'll add everything to the makefile. So we just need to ensure that we're adding the different classes. So there's a person class right now, and then there's car.class. We need to specify, we want to create car.class, we want to create driver.class, and we want to create vehicle.class. Okay. And now within our test classes as well. I'm just going to replicate that. Whoa. Okay.
Something happened.
Yeah, I just got pulled to a different screen.
It says Princess, focus your attention. Princess, please don't play around with.
I know it's cool, guys. It's cool to use this live sharing thing. It's really cool.
I mean, you guys can work on it like this as well when you're working on your assignments. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, guys, so just doing a little bit of admin here, just setting up the makefile to allow for person, car, driver, and vehicle. And now I'm just going to do make. And looks like we have an error in car.java. So car.java basically has an error because I have not specified the type over here. That is a Python habit. And we get another error in get car. This is in driver class, Asif.
What's wrong in get car?
Get car. Oh, it was just passing in I. I think that was a mistake, huh? We don't need to pass in anything there. And there's license ID in driver.
I think my getters are wrong because get car should return public car type, right? So it should be get car should be like that.
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
correct.
and then this is gonna be public string.
It has to be type car, so capital C.
Yeah, I'm not taking in anything. Cool, that's it.
Let me make that. We still have an error. The get car function is like a random extra bracket here. So guys, if you use something like IntelliJ, a lot of this time that we're spending debugging on those errors can be mitigated. So, I mean, Asif, basically we have created our classes successfully, right? We have our driver class, we have our all our different classes. So if we come back to our planning over here, we created a vehicle interface, we created a car object, and now we created the driver class that inherits from person. I think the next thing we can do is create the passenger class that inherits from person, right?
All right, let's do that. Yeah, I can do that. Just create a new file for me, please.
Okay.
Passenger to Java. How is everyone following along? On the chat, please let us know how you're following along. Is everything okay?
So I'm just gonna create the passenger class.
Please, can people respond so we can know what's happening?
Just type a yes in the chat or no.
Okay, by finishing very cool. That's fine, defense. As long as you know what's going on, so going, so you can, even if you're behind with the code, you will know what to do because you know what's going on.
So guys, let me do this. Let me just commit the code that we've done so far.
What about everyone else? We only have like a few people who responded.
So guys, you can clone from GitHub. You should be able to pull. So I've pushed the code.
Let's put a link on WhatsApp as well, the GitHub repo link.
Yeah, I already did.
Oh, great.
Awesome, guys. Let's go. Let's continue. I think people are following along. So Asif, we need to just create the passenger class.
Right, I'm on it.
So what we can do is we can just copy the stuff from driver class and just to speed things up.
I just want to have a look at the blueprint. So in the passenger class, we have the same thing as the driver class. So we're already inheriting the stuff already because we're extending. Right? And then we're going to have email only. So it's string email string. So it's public. This is private. Private
Just
string.
just like for sake of simplicity, don't make just make everything protected for now.
Okay. Protected.
You don't have to say like protected. You can just leave it. It's automatically protected, right?
Okay. It actually is. So string email is equal to, just going to do that, right? The
Lowercase.
constructor will again say passenger or lowercase, okay.
Yeah.
Passenger, right? And then it's going to take in again the same stuff as the driver class, right? Because remember, we want to make a call to super, right? And for super, we need to have these the first name, the surname, the phone number, the cache. The new thing that's going to go in is the email, right? It's going to be string email, right? And then what we're going to say is super, and then we're going to just take in these things: the name, the surname, the phone number, and the cache, right?
Excuse me.
Okay, and then we're just going to instantiate our email. This for email is equal to email, right? And then we need our setters and getters for that. I'm just going to copy paste our setter and getter from my driver class, and then I'm going to edit that a bit. Right, so I've got set email, and then string, and it's going to take the email in the attributes. I'll put this dot email is equal to email. Right, I'm currently working on the passenger class, guys, for the guys who are on live share, so you can go and look at the passenger class. I'll set this and get email, this dot email. Cool. I think I've got everything right, Victor.
Yeah, I think this is fine. So let me just make everything. Wait, did I add a passenger here? I did not. We should actually create our test class and initialize these objects, our test Uber class.
Yeah, I think before we even do that, I think we test the person class, the vehicle class, and see if it's all working.
So it says
Before.
string cannot be converted to car. So we have a small issue in our.
What is this for?
I think it's in our passenger class. We should just change this to string.
Oh, sorry.
And that should work. Great. So I think let us do this. Let us create our main class. Test Uber app.java. Let me just call it Uber app.java. This is going to be our main class. So when I say main class, I mean it's going to basically have our main method, right? Uber app public static void main string and system.out.println welcome to Uber app. So the reason I'm doing this is because I just want to validate if it's working.
Okay, once all the classes are built, let's go to the makefile as well. Yeah?
Yeah. Great. So cd into bin, and I'm just going to Java Uber app. Yes, so I think our Uber app is live now. Let us, do you want to instantiate like a person class and a vehicle class?
Yeah, I think we should just try making a driver. Let's try making a person. Let's do that first. Or let's try making a car first. What do you say?
Yeah, so I think with car, let's see. So this is what the car class looks like. Yeah, let us instantiate a car. We haven't created the subclasses for car here, like XL and X. I think guys, for simplicity's sake for now, what we can do is we can just have a, like Asif, I'm thinking that we can just have a, like the base price, the base rate, right? We can just have that as a variable. And then if, when instantiating the constructor, we can just specify with the string, whether it's XL or X. And if it's X, it just sets the base price to something. I mean, for simplicity's sake for now.
Yeah,
Obviously,
we can do that. Yeah, let's just do that. I think let's make a variable called type, or instance variable called type.
yeah,
That'll be either L or X, right?
type, and then we can have, let's just set int for rate, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just stick with doubles for consistency's sake. Base rate. Okay. What we'll do is we're going to take in the type as a string. Okay. So this dot type is equal to type, and then we're just going to check if type is equal to XL, right? Then we're going to set this dot base rate to, let's say, maybe it's 15 Rand, right?
Yeah, X put 15 Rand.
15, okay. If type, let me just make this else, right? Or just else. Since we're just dealing with 2, we can just put it as else for now. Else we could just make it 10 Rand as the base rate, right?
Yeah.
I hope this makes sense, guys. Like what we're basically doing here is when we're instantiating the class, we're basically setting the base rate to 15 Rand if it's an XL. If it's an X, we're setting the base rate to 10. So we're just hard coding it out. Right? So now if I come over here and I instantiate the car object, right? So let's just create car. Let's see, BMW is equal to new car. And let us see what we're passing in. So we're passing in these things. So passing in the number plate. Number plate can be KA1234. Color can be black. Model can be BMW X5. And type can be XL, right? Now if I do BMW dot, if I system dot out dot println,
Akhil, print out BMW. Let's see what happens.
if I
The whole
print,
object.
there's no toString method though.
Exactly. You need to make that.
Okay. To
Yeah,
check
so
type
guys,
equals because it's a string. Yeah, good one, Lonwabo. Thank you so much. I totally forgot about that. That's a good one. Since we're checking the type, we need to use
dot equals.
I totally forgot about this. Just so used to JavaScript now. Is it like that, guys? Lonwabo? Type dot equals. Awesome. I mean, what we can do is we can just do a quick check here. Because if we do the equals, it's going to check for the object address. That's why we needed to use the dot equals method. Awesome, awesome. Great catch, Lonwabo. We would be sitting debugging that for a while. Cool. So I'm just going to make this. I'm going to run this. So we are receiving an error. It says there's no semicolon here. So as you can see, it's just printing this random object address, right? Because it's just it created a reference, and it's just pointing to that reference. So I think Asif said that we should create a toString method, right? So we can just simply create a toString method here. And it's just going to return, let's see. Let's just return this dot model plus car of this dot color with number plate this dot. Oh. Great. I think that should do the trick with the toString method. Now if I make this again, so I'm compiling the files again, and now if I run the Uber app file, I'll basically just be printing out the object again, but let's see what comes. So now it runs the toString method, because the toString method is part of the object class that every class that's ever created in Java automatically inherits from. So we're just overriding, we're doing a concept here called overriding. We're overriding the toString method here. Overriding is basically when we have a class that's been created that already has that method, and we're just creating a new implementation for that method with the same signature. Signature means like it's called toString and it just has the same parameter, which is no parameter over here. So we're just overriding the toString method, and when we run this, we're able to print out our toString. It's able to automatically run the toString method because it has it. Right, so we can see that a new car has been created, the BMW X5 of black color with the number plate of that. So that we've successfully created our car object, so that works. Now let's test if we are able to create our person object. Are we able to create a passenger and driver, right? So now we'll also be touching a little bit on polymorphism as well. So Asif, are you there?
Yeah, I'm around, yeah.
Awesome. So what I'll do is I'm just going to create the person class first. So basically a person basically takes in these parameters. I think I created a demo one up here. Let me just use that. So I'm going to create a new person called Akhil, right? And Akhil also does not have a toString method. So what I can do is I can just create a toString method real quick. I can just reuse the toString method that I created in the car file. And I'm just gonna print this dot name plus surname. Okay. And
Akhil, I'm just going to make the toString for the toString functions for driver and passenger.
go for it. I think that does save time for me. I will go to Uber app, and I'm just going to system.out print line Akhil. I see an error. Line 50 public string. Oh, driver. Oh, Asif, are you still typing? I'm not able to compile because.
Yes, I am. Hold on. I think I'm done.
this dot surname, it's looking for surname in Java, but it doesn't have access to the surname.
Where is error coming from?
The error is coming from driver.java.
Oh, is it because I have to use getters? Because it's private, right? So I can't use it.
So I think what you would need to do is you would need to access, how do we access the name value? I think we'd have to use,
it's not get name. I have to use get name.
yeah, but you need to instantiate.
Super. Okay. You have to use super. You have to use super. Remember, in a toString function, you have to use super as well.
Try that. So would you use super.name?
Super.toString, and then you add the new stuff to it. So it will. I'm not sure. Let me just. Can someone help us here? The toString function of.
I'm just going to Google search.
Google it.
I think we can access the, we can use the super keyword to access the method. So we do super.getName. I think that's how we'll access the name.
No, I think on defensive gave us an option. He says super plus other stuff. Yeah, he's right. He's right. He's actually right.
Try that.
Hold on. Let me just go back to my code. So I'm on driver class right now. So
Yeah.
I will say super plus I'm a driver. All right. And passenger, same thing. We'll say super plus I'm a passenger. Right. Guys, the toString functions, we can write whatever we want in here, right? Like for now, we're just doing this because it makes it easier for us. Try compiling now.
So it's saying that call to super must be first statement in the constructor. It's getting a small error there. Oh, you need a super.toString.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, I've changed the passenger class. Cool. Check it out now.
So yeah, so Asif is super dot, so it's not a function call. So getting an error in, oh, okay. Awesome. So, okay, so I actually didn't instantiate driver and passenger in the app class. So let me just instantiate the driver.
So you guys can see what's happening right now is testing, right? We haven't finished, so we've built a bit of our code, and now we're testing and playing around and seeing if our classes are working. So if we have any errors, we can sort them out now itself instead of doing it later on. And because there'll be too much code later on, we're going to struggle finding where the error is. So you always want to be testing your app while you're building it.
So actually already passing in the car object parameter over here. Let me actually just copy this. So I know exactly what I'm passing into driver. So first we're passing in the car. So the car is over here. And then the next thing we're passing is the license ID. License ID is testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me just call it license. And the name is going to be Sam. Person. Really bad with naming, guys. Phone number. The phone number was string, right?
Yeah.
And cash is going to be 1000. Now I'm just going to print out Sam. Let's see what happens. There's a little bit of an issue here for that. So we got an error. The error is Sam, constructor person cannot be applied to given types.
Required
strings.
car. The car is missing. The driver.
I did pass in car. Oh, I'm instantiating person here. Sorry, my bad. Have to instantiate person. Driver. Great, it compiled. Great, it worked, guys. So your toString method works in a driver now. Sam person, and I'm a driver. The surname is person. Let me just say Sam surname. Okay, and now what I'll do is I'll create the passenger. So let's see how that will work.
Is everyone following along? Please type yes in the chat. Does everyone know what's happening? If you have any questions, please ask. The whole point of this is for you to ask questions. That's why it's live. But yes, but behind. I mean, as long as you understand what's happening, that's what matters, because this is recorded, so you can refer to it again, right? I mean, once this is over, I think what I want you guys to do is let's sit down again, watch the recording. We'll upload the recording straight away. You can watch it and see like what's going on, and start coding along as well. You can put this up on your GitHub repo by the night. So when we say that submit codes that working and it's you're testing it well, this is what I mean, right? You make sure everything is working before you submit it to us for the final, as a final submission every Fridays. So you want to make sure everything works. If not, ask for extension for 1 or 2 days and get it and fix it up.
Great. So we are able to do this, guys, like it's working. So our toString method for car, person, driver, and passenger works. And we have successfully, just to recap what we have done so far, we have created an interface called vehicle. And with this vehicle interface, we overrode all the methods in this interface in our car class. And our car class is implementing vehicle interface. And in our driver class, we are using the car object to actually instantiate the driver. And the driver class actually inherits from person. It extends from person. And also passenger inherits from person. And our Uber app right now, our main file, it essentially creates the car object, the person object, the driver object, and the passenger object. So we have successfully created this portion over here. We've done that. I think we can call this portion done as well. We've done it slightly differently though. For the sake of time, we have simply just created the vehicle as a vehicle interface, and we created a car that implements that interface. And we have created this file over here that is basically our Uber app. And now what we're left with doing is creating the actual Uber ride class. And we should actually create the ride abstract class that will sort of inherit, that will implement this class, the ride class. So this is what we've done so far. And I think, Asif, are we supposed to break for lunch now before we recoup in an hour's time?
I think let's take a break now. Just push everything to GitHub, right?
Yeah.
And whoever was behind, please follow up and fix the code and get things to work. And then we'll meet again in an hour's time, and we will continue. What do you guys think? Right. So I'm going to drop this message in the WhatsApp group as well, right? Please, we are taking a break for lunch now.
So guys, I'm super excited to do the next part. So I think for the next part, what we'll do is in the ride class, we will be taking in a start point and an end point, right? And I think let's actually implement a third-party API to do that. So let's actually implement Google API to take the start location and the end location and calculate the distance. And I think that's going to be a killer fun method to do. Oh, also guys, we need to work on our database. So I think the things left to do after is to work on the test Uber ride. We need to also work on the actual Uber ride class, and we also need to work on our database. So it's quite a few things. I think we might have to extend the session slightly to tomorrow as well. But let's hope we can get through most of the stuff today. Cool. All good?
So we'll join again at 2, right?
Yeah, so let's join in an hour's time at 2 o'clock. I know, guys, my time might be a bit confusing. Nairobi is 1 hour ahead. So we will join in 1 hour's time. So we'll send the link about 10 minutes before so that we can start exactly on time. So guys, please be on time. We don't want you guys to miss anything. Like the real stuff is going to happen at the next session. Like that's the real fun stuff that we'll be doing. So awesome. I hope the session was fun so far. We will join about 15 minutes or 20 minutes before so that we can also just answer a few questions before we dive into the next session, and we'll start sharp at 2 p.m.
All right, cool, guys. See you soon.